How would you like to make your first million? And today we have Ryan D. Lee with us. And Ryan is a personal finance expert, author, and founder of Wealth Outside Wall Street. Wow, I love it. Helping people build reliable passive income and achieve retirement in 10 years or less. He created the Passive Income Machine system, hosts the Passive Income Machine podcast. Wow, I love it. The name title of your podcast leads the Money Mastery community and has spoken on major stages, including Funnel Hacking Live. So, Ryan, tell us what are the 5 steps that you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Love that question, Harry. It's probably the most relevant question that someone can ask themselves right now is how do I create more value in the world? How do I take control of my income? And how do I make my first million? Because once you make that first million, your mind opens up that it's just a game that you can continue to play at higher and higher levels. So for me, step one, and this is only through hindsight. I didn't start this way myself, but now in hindsight, if I was coaching someone, I would say step number one is find a mentor, find a coach, find someone who has done the thing that you want to do, whether they're in the same business, whether they're really good at marketing, whatever it might be, find a mentor. That's step number one. Step number two, when that mentor gives you a path to follow it unwaveringly, follow it in detail, follow it until you can't get up and work anymore. Because I'll never forget for me, when I made my first million, it was after 18 months of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So step number two, follow the direction that your mentor gives you. Step number three, in order to make your first million, you've got to create real value. People's value that people can recognize, value that people are excited to pay for. And so once you create real value, step number three is all about gathering testimonials, gathering feedback, gathering customer stories, because that makes your marketing so much easier. So get a mentor, follow what the mentor says, create real value and gather testimonials. And then step number four, it's always understanding that dollars follow value. To look for ways to differentiate yourself from other market competition. Anyone can make their first million, but getting beyond a million or making a million over and over and over again, you have to have a core value proposition that differentiates you, whether it's your service, whether it's your product, whether it's your unique formula or process. Really double down on what your unique value proposition is in step number four. And then step number five, I would say it comes down to the team. There's only so far any individual can go on their own, but having the right people in the right place to fulfill on the offer that you have, that takes an entrepreneur from being a solopreneur to running a business. And that's when the game starts to change and you open up the ultimate form of leverage.
Ryan, so what's your message for people that said passive income is too good to be true? And on the other hand, I remember when I had my business, we make the first million in property. I remember at some point in the business, my team, my manager sent me home. Like he told me, Harry, we don't need you here anymore in the office. Go
Mhm.
home. We can grow this business without you. We can expand this business. I'm gonna go once a month to sit with you for a couple of hours to tell you how the business is doing, what we are doing, but you don't need to come here anymore. So I didn't have 100% passive income, but I would say 99.5.
I love
So
that, Harry.
so it happened to me. So but one message you said to people out there that said it's too good to be true, and like they don't believe that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thought there because I do believe that having a set of passive income requires someone to think differently. I really believe that most people in the game of making money, whether that's a career, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're running a business, whatever that is, it's very, very, very challenging to have passive income in a business. A business, the way you make money is generally some form of fully active Or Harry, in your case, you're a unicorn. You got it to 99.5% passive. That doesn't happen very often. And so the real passive income that I'm talking about inside of my book is helping people take their active income and converting it into assets that then can be passive. And I think this is the biggest misunderstanding of traditional finance, Harry, is most people they take money, and if they're thinking about retirement, if they're planning for retirement, they give their money to someone else. They hand their money over to the stock market. They give it to a financial advisor and they have no idea what's happening there. So my objective is to help people think like producers and begin with the end in mind. The purpose of investing is to generate income. And when you own assets that can generate income, that's really the passive income that I'm talking about. And so inside of our book, we've built a whole system to where if you can make good money, right? Go out and make active income. We've built a system to where you can take a portion of that active income and truly convert it into passive income using assets and processes to do it.
Ryan, can you show us your book? Tell us the title, where people can buy it, and what's your favorite chapter, and why do you
Yeah.
wrote this book? Tell us the name because some people might be driving or listening in the gym. So, can you tell us the name and what's your favorite chapter and what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, you got it. So the title of the book is called Retire in 10 Years or Less. And it's all about unlocking what we call the passive income machine to secure and create six figures of tax-free income for the rest of your life. So you can find the book on Amazon, Retire in 10 Years. If you want a bunch of bonuses, we have free trainings, we have free calculators, we have a free course, we have the audiobook. If you just go to retireintenyears.com, we give it all to you over there. So retireintenyears.com, or you can go grab it on Amazon. And if you're looking for a way to take back control over your money, that's what the book is really all about. It's about taking control over your money, using a system and creating tax-free income that buys your life back, that buys your time back. And so, Harry, the reason that I was inspired to write the book is like so many people, I did everything quote unquote right. I went to school, I got the job, I climbed the corporate ladder, I made good money, but I was stuck. And the more money I made in my career, the more I realized I was trapped in a system that many people call the rat race. And I'll never forget the first time I lost money in the markets, I realized two powerful lessons. Number one, I don't control the market. Nobody controls the market. And if I don't control the market, how can I ever predict or even impact the outcome of the market? I just realized I was along for a ride. But the other question that I had to realize when I lost money in the market was how much money is enough? How much money do I have in the market to be able to give me the income that I want to support my lifestyle? And what I realized in asking those two questions, Harry, is I realized that the traditional way of doing financial planning, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for a long, long time, but that's the way most people follow. If you're listening to this right now and you don't know how much money you have to have in your 401k, in your brokerage account, in the market to be able to buy your life back, that underscores the problem. System, it's designed to grow your money, but it's not designed to set you free. And so for me, I kind of went down a pathway to say, look, how do I create space? How do I create options in my life? And I came across two books. Harry, I bet most of the people in your audience have read at least book number one. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad. And when I read his book, Robert Kiyosaki's book, it confirmed all of the suspicions that I had. I realized that traditional finance wasn't going to work. I realized that everything I was using to measure success was the exact opposite if I wanted to build freedom. And so that opened me up to a new paradigm. But then I read a second book that it was written by my mentor, Robert Allen. And his book was, the title of the book was Creating Wealth, but it was the subtitle of his book that caught my attention. He said, Retire in 10 years using Allen's seven principles. And I'll never forget, Harry, when I picked up that book, I realized I could do exactly what he outlined. And so over the next couple of years, I took Robert Kiyosaki's mindset and Robert Allen's framework, and I actually replaced
Wow.
six figures of my active income. I replaced it in passive income, and I walked away from my corporate job. And I'll never forget that day. I walked away and I didn't know what I was walking away, to do. I knew I was walking away from something I didn't want anymore. I didn't want to be chained to a desk. I didn't want a boss. I didn't want someone telling me what to do. I didn't want the challenges and the stress that came from climbing a corporate ladder. But along the way, Harry, I had people asking me how I did it and if I could show them too. And so for the last 11, almost 12 years now, we've been running a company helping thousands of people take back control over their money and retire in 10 years or less. And so this book, it's really written as a manual. And you'll see it's actually co-authored by Robert Allen, the guy who inspired me, and it's forwarded and highly involved by Robert Kiyosaki. Both of these guys, once they saw how we had been helping
Wow.
people inside of our world, they both collaborated with me to write this book. And it is a step-by-step playbook. It's a manual, it's a framework to understand the game of money and use money as a tool to A, back your time, and then B, as a tool to build and live a life that matters.
Making the money and keeping it is completely different ball game, right? We have
It is.
entrepreneurs in this very same podcast, millionaires that they have come and they share the story. Harry, make millions, they lose it. Make millions, lose it. Make millions, lose it. So they clearly had the capacity and they're great entrepreneur to create the product and to sell it. However, there is a second part of the equation. You only, in order for you to keep the money, it's not enough to be a good entrepreneur. You have to become a good investor. And all good investors are good entrepreneurs, but unfortunately, not all good entrepreneurs are good investors. There are two different skill sets. And we have people in this podcast that share the story that they exit the company, they will make millions, they give it to a financial advisor. And after a year, when they check, a lot of zeros were missing because they say that they discovered that they were making money out of the fees. And is either if they grow that money or not, it doesn't matter. They still getting paid, so it was not in the best interest. Of course, we have in any industry good people, people that don't perform well. This is nothing wrong with financial advisors, right? But what is your message for the entrepreneur that they haven't discovered yet that be a good entrepreneur is not enough? You need to learn how to become an investor or have a coach or someone that teach you how to look at you. For example, you move from corporate directly as an investor and you replace your income. That's very impressive, right? So, what is your message for the entrepreneurs that we want all the entrepreneurs to be healthy, wealthy, and happy? But if
Mm.
they don't learn or they don't find a mentor, help them how to invest the money, it, drastic can happen. I know entrepreneurs that make all the money, reinvest in the business, make all the money, reinvest on the business, make all the business. So if COVID happened, something happened, you can go to zero in 2, 3 months. It's a huge risk. I
It's a
said, look,
huge
better
risk.
buy a house, pay the mortgage, and with this money that you have left, you can use for marketing for your own business. But you know what happened? If one day something happened with the business, still you have the asset. So what's your opinion on all this, Ryan?
Man, I love that, Harry. You're hitting the nail right on the head. You know, entrepreneurs are the most important people in our world, right? They're the people who solve problems. They're the people who create jobs. But if you look at an entrepreneur's life over a 10-year span of time, 93% of small businesses fail. 93% of small businesses fail over 10 years. 50% of them fail within the first 5 years. And so the reality of it is an entrepreneur isn't necessarily afraid of the risk of failing. That's what makes a good entrepreneur. But think about the collateral damage when you fail as an entrepreneur, right? Your customers that you could serve go unserved. It's really hard on you, the individual, when you're letting people go and closing your business. Think about your family, though, your spouse, your kids. They ride this roller coaster with you. And although they love you, they probably don't love the roller coaster that you take them on. And so the objective, you hit the nail right on the head, Harry, when you said making money and keeping money are two different things. What I always try to help an entrepreneur see is their best investments is actually their business. And all they need on their business is a return on attention. If they can keep their attention on their business, focused on their business, then this is what's going to make them the most money. But if you can do that, then you have to build in one discipline, and that's 20% of everything you make individually as an entrepreneur is yours to keep. And so if you in build a passive income machine, which is exactly what this book talks about. And it's super simple to do it, right? The passive income machine will show you how to lower your taxes, how to eliminate your taxes, how to build cash flow. And if you can make money and keep 20% of what you put in the system, that compounds and grows on itself, that's always capable of producing cash flow, then eventually what you're going to see is that you show up in your business with more intention. You show up in your business with more certainty. You show up in your business with more long-term thinking because you built your freedom for yourself. You're not showing up in your business in scarcity, thinking that I'm 1/4 away from everything falling apart. How am I going to make payroll next week? This is what changes a business that's on the cusp of failing to building an enterprise, to building an empire. The real companies who are successful, they're the ones who have grown beyond those 10 years. They've grown beyond those first 10 years, and only entrepreneurs who A, build a unicorn business, or B, who build personal freedom for themselves along the way are usually the ones that are able to get beyond those first 10 years. And so that's really what I would tell an entrepreneur is your business is your best investment. Your attention should be focused on your business. Build a business that's profitable enough for you to take 20% off and take that 20% and make sure that you're set for life. That's what's going to allow you to get beyond those 10 years and make a dramatic impact in the business world.
Robert Kiyosaki, I love this book. I read it and also changed my life. My first business actually was in property. We managed to sell over 5 million. And
Mm.
out of the 500 millionaires that we have interviewed in this podcast, 1 out of 5 are property investors and property millionaires. Why do you think that clearly the statistics shows that it's very good to build wealth, but why do you think that 1 out of 5 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, they are either property investor or they are related with property in different ways? So many people have come to the podcast with different strategy. They have property, they flip it, they do self-storage, they do commercial, they do residential, they do big houses, but all related with property.
Yeah, great question. So here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? The secret, actually, the secret of this entire book is something that you have to understand how the economy works. Our economy is built on a system that most people don't understand. And the this of this book is to take dollars or whatever form of paper currency you're using in whatever part of the world that you're in, but all of those dollars, and I'm just use dollars as the metric of measurement, those dollars aren't real currency. It's just here. It's just a piece of paper. And so the objective is to take the dollars that you earn and to convert them into real assets. And an asset is something that has long-term demand, that produces a stream of income, and that gives you massive tax incentives and allows you to use leverage. If you can find something that does all of those four things, that's a real asset. And that's why most people build their wealth in real estate. Whether they understand it or not, here's what happens in our economy. As the government prints more money, our dollars become less and less and less valuable. But if I own real estate, what happens? As the government prints more money, the price of real estate goes up. So the government printing money causing inflation is actually making me wealthy. And so that's why people gravitate towards assets like real estate, because based on how the economy works, I can get wealthy automatically. I can produce income, right? If I own an asset, whether it's an apartment building, whether it's a single family home, whether it's a storage unit, if I own an asset that's in demand, people will pay me to lease that asset from me. So it's giving me a stream of income on a monthly basis. Most real estate, in fact, if you look at the tax code is thousands of pages long, but almost 40% of the tax code out of all of those thousands of pages is written around one asset class. It's real estate. And the IRS, they use the tax code as a way to incentivize behavior. And so all they're helping you do and understand is if you do real estate, they allow you to keep more of your own money legally and ethically through taxes, through tax advantages. And so I have an asset that goes up in value because of inflation. I have an asset that delivers me a positive stream of cash flow. I have an asset that allows me to keep more of my money because of tax advantages. And the greatest force multiplier of all in personal finance is leverage. And entrepreneurs understand this intrinsically. Leverage is I hire someone and now I can get twice or three times as much work done. I build systems, I build processes, I use technology. The more leverage an entrepreneur can use in their business, generally, the more successful their business is and the more profitable it is. The same goes with finance. If I can use leverage in my personal finance, now I have to use it responsibly, but if I can use personal leverage in my finance, I can turn $1 that I had to trade my time, effort, and energy for, I can turn it into five working dollars, five invested dollars. And so that allows me to accelerate my results phenomenally. And so when I say retire in 10 years or less, it's not a marketing ploy. We teach people how to use leverage and how to buy real assets. And if I can turn $1 that I had to trade my time for into $5, I could take something that takes most people 40 or 50 years, and I can obviously do it in 10 years or less. So, Harry, to your point, that's why most millionaires, most people who are financially free, most people who've built real wealth over a long period of time, they own real assets, and real estate is one of the best assets to own.
So, Ryan, what message do you have then for people that want to do the transition from corporate to entrepreneur? Because the dynamic is completely different. When you are in corporate, if somebody come to tell you, can you do this job? You can tell, I'm sorry, this is not my job. Okay. And it's okay. But when you are an entrepreneur, everything is your job. And
Yeah.
so people might have the false idea that become an investor is really easy and and be an entrepreneur. You can fill your own calendar, you can travel the world, you can do everything. So people focus only in the positive thing without knowing that in your case, for example, in order to become a great investor, at some point you lose money in the market and you need to learn a lesson. And it's a process that you have to be through in order to become successful and replace your corporate income with the other vehicle and say goodbye to this life you don't want. So what really you want to, for example, that are in your situation right now, they don't like the job they're doing and they want a way out. What is your to them, because you have been in this situation and you managed to get out? Tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly
Yeah,
of that
man, that's a great
transition.
question, Harry. I love that. So for me, I had to have a reason, right? I had to have a major definite aim to drive me to do things that I normally wouldn't do. And that was my desire to be financially free. And there was a lot of reasons behind my desire to be financially free, but I wanted to have some ownership in my life. I wanted to have some control over how I use my time and what I wanted my life to matter. And the further I got in a corporate career, the more I felt like nothing mattered, right? I mean, I was just checking off quotas. Every year was the same as the last year. It was so monotonous and boring. But once I got committed to financial freedom, here's the first step that I took. I became an intrapreneur. And an entrepreneur is someone who uses an entrepreneurial mindset to create massive value, and they do it on the inside of someone else's business, whether it's a big corporation or a small company. I looked for ways to be the solution to every problem. I look for ways to create massive value. I look to solve problems for my number one customer. For me, my number one customer was my boss. How do I make that guy's life easier by being the solution that he always needs? And so for me, I went from making about $40,000 a year as a W-2 employee to over $150,000 a year. And I did it in almost 3 years or almost 4 years, being an entrepreneur. But there's a limit, right? There's a cap, there's a ceiling for how far you can go climbing the corporate ladder. And so for me, again, because I wanted to be financially free and I knew my best investment wasn't investing, it was making money. If I could make more money and keep more money, I could fill my passive income machine. And that was the fuel for me. And so I started a side hustle, right? And here's the thing I think that's available to people today that was just becoming available to me, 15 years ago. It's technology. Today, in the palm of our hand, with cell phones, with systems, with processes, with apps, you can make money on the go no matter what, any way you want. There are so many different ways to make money. But for me, I started a side hustle around something that I was struggling with at the time. I was dealing with some anxiety and and depression. And so I built a platform for busy professionals like myself to holistically work within anxiety and depression and move to happiness and healthy living. And man, I'll never forget this, Harry. Again, I found a mentor. His name was Pat Flynn. He ran the Passive Income Machine blog, and I followed everything he did. And for about 6 months, I followed him and I put everything I was doing online. And I started this company called Empowered Life Solutions. And I made about $500,000. Now, it took me a long time, figuring out how to do it online, but I made about $500,000 using a side hustle. And I put all of that into my passive income machine. And when I quit the corporate world and I started building this company, Wealth Outside Wall Street today, I just continued to build on those skills. So here's what I would tell you. No matter where you're starting from, the game of being an entrepreneur is all about trying something, seeing what works, and course correcting. Trying something, seeing what works, and course correcting. How do you create the most value in the world that you possibly can? And if you're an employee right now, if you don't want to make the clean jump, become an entrepreneur, try to double your income. Figure out who your boss is, your number one customer, and what's the most valuable thing you can do for that person, and do it over and over and over again. Once you get good at that, then start a side hustle. Figure out your unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities, and how can you use technology? How can you use freelancing? How can you use marketing to solve other people's problems? And if you're an entrepreneur, and it's all about really marketing, creating a customer, delivering a high end product, and repeating the process, getting them to retain, rebuy, and resell them. And so figure out the core function that you need to focus on and double down on that core function.
Oh, I love the tip about side hustle because I believe that this is the way of doing it. This is how I did it. Okay, I remember I'm based in London, and when I arrived to the city, my English was not good. Well, still is not good after so many years. But anyway, I arrived to the city, so I got my job in a pub, and then eventually was working as a room space in the Hilton. And I remember that the friend that I have it was that my rent was taking 65% of all my salary. Okay.
Mm,
So I started a side hustle. So, okay, how about if we can rent? I read the book of Roy Kiyosaki, same like you. And I said, okay, if we rent the house and then I can live in the living room, and then I rent the other individually. US they call it co-living. Um, at least I remove the overhead of the rent, which is most of my salary. And then, okay, did it. Next month, I have a lot of money. I'm like, wow, now I can keep all my salary. So I'm thinking, oh, what if I keep doing more of the same? So a lot of
yes.
entrepreneurs, they solve the problem for themselves and then solve it to others. So, but the interesting thing about the side hustle that you are pointing out is that I built my business in the lift of the Hilton in Canary Wharf because it was the only place that we don't have managers around. So when I have a room service order, I'm thinking, oh, I wish I was to a 20 floor, 25, I have time. So when I the lift with the food, I was making the food comes to the landlords to acquire more houses or to the tenants to show them the room, right? And it was eventually that transition, and I put my feet in entrepreneurship, okay, and I like it. And like I said, one day I was what I was making in one day. I have two. It happened to me. I have two rooms empty every month. Two rooms empty. It's like 1,100, 1,200 pounds
Mm,
every month. And then I'm working 40 hours in the Hilton per week. And I'm thinking, well, if I don't come to work into the hit in a Hilton and I had the whole day for me, of course I can rent these two rooms. So basically that's what I did. I quit and then next day I rented two rooms and it was basically make the same money one day that I was making in a Hilton. So, but
uh,
it was side hustle. It was a transition, exactly as you described. It was no, we have people here that they come from corporate and they say, well, Harry, I got fired. COVID came, I got fired. And then I started my business and I'm doing very well. Oh, Harry, this happens and I'm going to have a child. So I quit my job and I'm going to start my business because. So my question to you, Ryan, is we have to wait until something dramatic happens in order to become who we really are, which is basically, I'm surprised that is not your case. You did this willingly and planning, and you were confident what you wanted, and then you went for it. But this is not the usual case. The stories that we hear in this podcast is, Harry, you know what? I got fired. COVID came, and then that's why I started my business. Or I'm gonna become a dad, so I had to change everything. The other day, I'm visiting a friend and was telling me, Harry, the 9 to 5 doesn't work for me anymore. I have a child now. I need to spend time with her to take her to school. So the 9 to 5 doesn't work for me anymore. So I'm looking at options. So, what do you think, Brian, that most of human beings, until doesn't plastic, they don't take that decision, which is a little bit risky. I think that is the way you did it more gradually without no pressure of anything. I think is, and even that you have your failures and you have to overcome that failure. So tell us your point of view about all this. Why do you think that is happening in the human mind that something drastic need to happen in order to become who we really are, or
Yeah,
or to take what we really want?
that's a great question, Harry. Here's the reality. Life is gonna give you what you fight for, right? And too many people aren't fighting for the life that they want. And here's the reason why. They don't know what life they want. They know what they don't want, right? But they don't know what they actually want. And I'll never forget when I read the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Inside of that book, he kept talking about the secret, the secret, the secret, the secret. And I'll never forget, like when I read the book the first time, he didn't definitively say what the secret was. And I was kind of pissed off because I was looking for the secret. But I went back through the book again and I found he had an entire chapter on something that he called a major definite aim, a vision for your life. If you woke up tomorrow with all the resources in the world, if you woke up tomorrow and you could do anything, have anything, anyone, that's your major definite aim. And having a major definite aim is a vision for your life that isn't the current reality of your life, but that vision for your life, when you have it and you repeat that major definite aim to yourself over and over and over again, your subconscious mind starts to it. And your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between reality and not reality, between tomorrow and yesterday. And so when that major definite aim is planted in your subconscious mind and you working and your brain does things powerful, you have wheel to activate system in our brain. And like what we're aware of and what we just filter out. Like all of us at all times are filtering out thousands of inputs into our world because our subconscious mind deems it not relevant for our conscious mind to be aware of. So, what a major definite aim does for you is it gives you a dream, it gives you a vision so clear that you can almost feel it. You involve your senses with that major definite aim, and then once you come to the conscious world that we live in, your reticular system will start filtering in the circumstances, the people, the connections, the opportunities that it otherwise deemed as irrelevant because it didn't have a major definite aim that it was filtering data through. Once you have a major definite aim, this is what drives you, Harry. It's what drives you to say, look, if I woke up tomorrow and money wasn't the constraint of my life, money wasn't the reason that I did or didn't make decisions, what life would I live? If you can get clear on a major definite aim, then you realize the purpose of money in your life. The purpose of money is a tool. It's a tool to build and live a life that matters. That's all it is. It's just a piece of paper. It's a number on a bank account. The purpose of money isn't to have money, it's to give you more freedom, more control, and more options with your life. And once you have a major definite aim, that's what's going to drive you beyond average, drive you beyond complacent, and it's going to allow your brain, your specifically, to start to filter in the exact pathway for you to make the appropriate connections, the appropriate money, start the right business, do the things necessary to align your conscious desires with your subconscious reality. That's the best part about a major definite aim. And that, I believe, was the secret of Think and Grow Rich.
And if someone is in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works?
Love that, Harry. Number one, grab the book. It would be a tremendous honor for me to get this book in your hands because it is a playbook to take control over your money. So, retireintenyears.com. That's how you find the book. If you want to connect with me personally, I run a YouTube channel, wealthoutsideWallStreet.com or Wealth Outside Wall Street on YouTube, or connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. I'm the Ryan D. Lee, the Ryan D. Lee.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneur like Ryan break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thank you, Harry.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.